I can't go to the ones where they like put snakes on the seats.
I like the ones where they chase
When
you.
I'm nervous, I just talk a lot.
I saw the
I can't run that fast.
me and my parents.
Talk, that's good. Because
My dad would probably go
whenever I get
way
nervous,
too
I shut down completely.
Just we have like 10
I don't
years.
talk.
That's when I start to make up stuff. I don't know what are you talking about?
Okay. Because we have to write that.
You want me to start or wait?
Your partner is not here.
Yeah, she on the
She's
way.
here, so I guess she's on her way.
Let's
Just
let's
wait
wait.
for her.
Yeah,
Okay.
let's wait.
We have several people missing. Do you know whether they're coming?
I don't think
Anthony's not coming. How about,
Olivia.
yeah,
She was at the elementary school with us, so she might be
late.
she might be late.
Let's just wait for 3 more minutes.
Okay.
That's Olivia.
We kind of leave. When we leave, everyone is still out in the hallway, so we usually start doing it. 'Cause we like that's why too.
I love that. Have you ever watched that show, Killer Kids? It's about, oh, I love that show. It's about teenagers who like murder their parents.
Like their whole families.
Have you seen the one about the dude who killed his parents and then threw a party?
The
Their
computer.
dead
Wait,
bodies.
wasn't there computers here?
And then told his
Yeah, there
girlfriend,
was.
like, it won't harm you.
I'm going to post your midterm grade this weekend. And that will reflect your presentation grade and also your class participation grade. Okay? And once you see that, then you know how much harder you should work for the rest of the semester.
So is it gonna be one grade or 2 separate grades?
Midterm grade, just one grade. So it's letter grade, A, B, C, D, those, yeah. So you're gonna
And-
see that.
When did you say that's gonna be posted?
This weekend.
This weekend,
Okay.
because deadline for me is 12, so I'm going to post this
Oh.
weekend.
Okay.
So it's gonna be like in, like you're
Letter
gonna,
grade, but then I'm going to post individual grade in Blackboard, so you can see both. Okay.
Okay. We did chapter 19, keeping the competition out. And can y'all like give a summary of what you read? If you read.
Well, the first part of it was talking about how like the taxi cabs in New York basically control all the competition. They have a medallion on it. So if you have a medallion on it, no one else can like come in unless someone leaves. So if someone leaves, then they can come in and take their spot. But it's a pretty lucrative business.
Bringing in government regulation is supposed to promote competition, but it actually stifles it.
Less competition can create higher profits, but bad for consumers.
Anybody else? No? Okay. You wanna write? We're gonna do, if y'all can list pros and cons of regulating competition, if there are any pros.
Well, if you regulate the competition, there'll be some sense of order and it won't end up coming to a head, so to speak. And it won't be quite as fierce because it's regulated, so there's only so much they can do.
Okay, so to give like order to it.
Profits. Like the companies have a better chance of making profits.
By regulate, because like in the book, the government regulates it, but the government, like, by regulating it, they put a cap on
Right.
who could, so do you mean like increasing the amount of competition or putting a cap on certain?
No, like just in general, like are there any pros and like what are the pros and cons of having that cap and not letting it be like
Oh, of having it? Cons, it reduces your choice.
And it makes costs higher.
What did you say?
Costs higher. It's harder to get into the market. There's generally fewer providers.
any more?
I don't know how to word this, but it like eliminates alternatives. Like when you with the busing thing, you have to use the cab from the cabs that are provided. You can't use like what they were saying about one of those people who I think what was it called? It started with a J. Jitneys, yeah, like you can't have those, so it like limits you to one source.
Okay, so
It kind of goes back to the whole reducing the selection.
Yeah.
It's kind of for safety because, like, it was talking about the licensing. So, like, it, like, reduces, like, I guess, dangerous, like, fake people, like, fake businesses
right.
to, like, safety.
So do y'all think it would be better to have the regulations or would you rather not have the regulations?
I would definitely want a regulation. Because if some random person is driving a cab, they could be like a psycho and you wouldn't know. That would be scary.
Yeah.
I think it should depend on whether it is a life-threatening thing. So like cabs, there should be some sort of regulation, but like they were talking about hair braiding. It's like if they mess up your hair, it's gonna grow back again. Just, don't go there again. They're gonna go out of business pretty quickly if they mess up people's hair.
So yeah, basically, the book was saying that the regulations on competition, it increases the price, and I guess do you want to do the
chart?
What is it there?
Demand stays the same. I feel like so it's just demand goes down.
Just goes down like this.
Which market, what market are you talking about here?
Goods and services. It's like goods and services.
But, you know, we have some example in this book, right, in this
Right.
chapter. Use a particular example, use a particular market. Then we know what we talk about, what kind of demand and what kind of supply we talk about.
Well, you can use the taxis.
Okay. Try they like
Um,
demand that generally stay the same.
yeah, so the demand for the taxi was the same in New York because I mean it's the same amount of people who don't have cars
How far I go like
to go down.
just go like that.
But doesn't supply also stay the same because they have a cap on who, like, how many taxis can be out there?
Well, no, like without the regulations, supply, like draw the supply line. Can you draw the supply?
The supply is just like a straight line.
Mm-mm.
Isn't it horizontal? So the supply doesn't change.
It's just demand, it's just supply.
Look at that.
Supply would stay would be like that if there was no regulations. But once they add that cap, it decreases the supply.
Yeah.
Making the price increase. So the supply line like that would go to the left.
So with this government regulation, what the supply line looks like now?
So you're saying like S1 is without government regulation and S2 is with
If without government regulation, then we have market, right? Okay, market operates, then it should have this positive slope. But right now, the government regulate this market.
That's what I'm saying.
So-
So like, wouldn't it then go down because your supply is decreasing?
So does the cap creates like a vertical line, that the supply can't go past?
Vertical
That
would be
creates-
horizontal because
That because then by putting in the regulations, like that's a cap. So, like the number of supply can't go past that cap. So there's no increase or
So
decrease.
the
in
quantity is
Yeah, the
fixed.
quantity.
Yeah, so
Quantity is
that-
fixed.
that
Now the price, okay? Price is not fixed. Okay, so the quantity fixed is a straight line.
okay, so
Okay.
it's like a vertical line.
It's a straight line, it's right.
So is that what just
that would
cute?
because S2
Draw
would just be a
another
vertical line. Because
Draw another graph, okay, draw another one next to it. With vertical line, the supply. Okay, then draw the demand.
I mean, it would just be like this, wouldn't it? Or be down.
What is allowed demand? When the price goes up, quantity demand is going to go down.
Or like this.
Negative slope, that's right.
okay.
Does somebody want to help them out with this?
What's the question?
What's the next thing? You know, following that graph, what's the next thing we want to talk about?
How the demand changes, but it doesn't.
If you're about to lead this discussion, what would be the next question you're gonna ask your audience?
And so this graph, but what you have up there now is with government regulation.
That's right.
So when you take away government or regulation, how does it change?
Okay.
That's what I would ask.
Okay, so what I was gonna say is, now there is the intersection between the supply and demand, right, on that graph. And that would be the price you see right now, okay, in the market, right? Okay, so mark that price. Mark that price. Mark that price.
Maybe
Draw a horizontal line. P star.
Yeah.
Okay, so that would be the price right now, okay?
the price of all the medallions in the market right now.
Are we talking about?
Actually, it's the cab,
The cabs?
the taxi price per mile.
Oh, okay, okay.
That would be the price
Okay.
that we're talking about here.
So,
So,
So-
change.
I mean,
So what was the price be, what would the price be without the government regulation?
It would,
Without government
That's why
regulation,
when
that
I
would
read-
probably be lower
it would decrease
because there'd be
because,
more people driving taxis.
yeah, so the value decreases.
And the competition would increase.
So when you take out the regulation, the demand doesn't change, but the supply now
Supply
increases and the price now decreases. So,
I think supply goes up. It's like.
There wouldn't be a
Uh,
cap.
no, there's no
There's
cap,
not a cap,
so it
so
wouldn't be
maybe-
vertical.
Because
So it would be a what?
There wouldn't be a vertical line.
Yeah, it would be like a diagonal, like the demand only. Like that.
But the other way, because price is decreasing.
Because I'm not a graph person, that's a fact.
In the book, they talk about the taxi price comparison of New York taxi price with other states, with other big cities.
Oh, yeah.
Remember? Okay,
Yeah.
so what
Is it underneath
What-
it?
do those data tell us?
The price in New York is actually lower.
It's very low.
Yeah.
Actually, those cab drivers want the regulator to push the price up, right?
I'm not a graph person.
So if we're about to leave the market alone, okay, so we have the demand like that, and then we have the supply as a positive slope. Where do you think this price, this equilibrium price would be compared to the current price?
Be high.
Higher.
Should be higher. Yeah. Right, should be higher, yeah. Even we have more competition, but it should be higher, yeah, based on what they discussed in the book, right? Yeah.
Because they're saying that it's actually too low right now.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're not really making a profit at the price that they have now. So if you were at an equilibrium, that would technically increase the price.
So if you guys want to draw.
But also, I don't know. What I understood in the book is what it was saying that they regulate the competition by decreasing the number of firms or whatever we're talking about. And that would decrease the supply, which would increase the price.
But if the supply, if that is equilibrium point, that is governed by the supply and demand, then that would be the case. But right now, this price they have is not governed by the supply and demand
Right.
because the government regulates this market. You see what
Okay.
I'm saying?
So so right now, like, you have the demand, but you don't have enough cars to meet the demand. So if you put more cars out on the market, but didn't increase the price, wouldn't that?
So
Okay.
that's a quite nice question I want to ask you guys. Okay, so if right now, and they issue this small medallion, okay, they issue more medallion, and definitely the supply is going to go up. Go ahead, draw the graph. The supply is going to go up. But also there's something else that's play a role in this market. That eventually is going to push the price higher than the price set by the the regulator right now.
There's something that would
There's
make the price
something.
higher?
That's right.
Is the price on gas?
Hmm?
Is it the price on gas?
Price on the gas?
Yeah, because if you're driving or everybody around, if you don't set your price at a instance where you'll be making a profit, then if they increase the prices on gas and your profit goes away, you're not making no money.
No, but that's how it is right now. I'm not saying it's necessarily to do with gas, but right now they're not necessarily making a profit because the fare that they're charging doesn't necessarily cover all the costs that they have to put in.
Does it have to do with the rate of return?
So let me ask you guys, now how this price is set right now? How this price is determined? How this, what's the price is, $6 something like that, I remember.
They said a basic single fare is
No, no,
$2.50.
In the article, $6 something, right? How was that price determined? Was it
They said
determined?
it just it's been slowly increasing, and there's like this battle between the board and the taxi drivers and the.
Actually, from what I read, and those regulators, they determine the price, right? Right. It's not really, follow the supply and demand. So they determine basically they put a price. That would be considered as price ceiling. That would be considered price ceiling because it's way below the market equilibrium price. Okay, so they put a price ceiling on it, and that's the price you're gonna charge, and the cab driver have to just follow that, right? Okay, so there's a lot of things going on. Not only the supply is fixed, but also, what I think here is this going on. Is first they fix the supply, right? Okay, but if they fix the supply and they do not manipulate the price, then eventually this demand is going to determine this equilibrium price. But I don't think that's what happened. They even did not allow this demand to determine the price. They feed the price. So they not only fix the supply, but also they fix the price. So it's double control here. Okay, that's why I think there were so much issues going on because fixing the supply is bad enough, but now they're fixing the price on top of that. So neither supply or demand governs this price. What you're seeing in the market.
Well, it's real interesting about this because when I was in Puerto Rico, it's very tourist attracted, and they would have like their taxis lined up out of the resort. And we were curious because it was like to go into town, which was 3 miles, was $15. So like we would, you would like, do we pay $15 or do we just walk? But when we asked them like how did you set that, because we were curious, they said that it was the same thing that they had people. They said that their bosses set the price, but it wasn't by supply or demand. It was just whatever they were told.
That's right.
Which is kind of interesting because they said like one of the cab drivers was like, well, we think it's too much, but it doesn't really matter because it doesn't matter what we think. We're just told to drive.
That's right.
So that's interesting.
But I think that also has to do with like your situation. It's like the maximum that they can get out of you, because my family took a trip to the Caribbean, and when if you get off that cruise ship, they recognize you as a tourist. But we actually have a home there, and so like if you go into town and you just get a regular cab, like they don't recognize you as a tourist.
That's what we did.
So that's what we do, and then they'll haggle the price with you. But once you're by those docks and they see, oh, you're getting off the Carnival cruise ship, they're like, well, we can charge them a higher rate. So I mean, that's like, if I could get the maximum out of this tourist. And then the other thing is like, when you sit at those docks, like they're potentially getting less customers because if you were in town, like drop you here and there. But if you're with a tourist, like one thing that they'll do is be like, oh, well, we can be your cab for the day if you'll give us X amount of money. So that's gonna be, if they charge the same rate as they did for everyone in town, they would lose money that way. But this way they can charge you a higher rate, get some profit, and
I just thought it was interesting that they didn't do it off like the supply, especially like since what we've been learning. It was just it was interesting that this was the topic today.
So I could understand why they would cap the amount of taxis because they talked about the environmental issues. But I was wondering, like, why wouldn't they study base the price cap? Even if they were going to do a price cap, why wouldn't they base it on a supply and demand curve? Like, what?
That's a good question. Let's see what you guys think.
because doesn't that hurt the market as a whole? Because if you don't base it off of the supply and demand curve, they could have picked like anything, and that could have toppled the entire taxi cab economy. If they had decided, oh well, we're gonna charge $10, they don't know if $10 is the price where everyone says that's it, we're walking. So I don't understand like that's a crucial decision to make.
I think it kind of plays into what you just said there when the $10 thing. Well, if they say the equilibrium price is too much, people in New York, a lot of them walk around anyway, and or it would seem that way to me if you can't. That's so congestion, but but if the equilibrium price is too much, and say it would be like $10, like she said, and it's $10, who in the world is going to pay $10 to drive like 1 or 2 miles? Pay like $10 to drive a mile.
Somebody in a rush. That's what I think. I think they are looking for people. I mean, if you're gonna try to ride anyway instead of just walking, I think they feel like they can charge you anything. Because I mean, you can walk, and I guess that's what would be easier and cheaper. But if you are like you just not gonna do it, then you're gonna pay whatever.
In big cities, you're not even really going a mile. Most of the time, you're just going a couple blocks. So that's a big factor. I mean, I know some people that drive from like 46 to like 49th instead of walking, and they use a cab.
But I mean, like that. But then if you say that they did increase it to $10, and a lot of people can be like, okay, well, we're just gonna walk. And then there is like, we're gonna walk, we're gonna take a bike, or we're gonna do this. But then there's that select few who's gonna be like, well, we can't. And so then like that decreases the demand, but then again, like because by increasing the price that much, you decrease the demand to this select few people, and then doesn't that still like just hurt the economy as a whole?
Well, I think you're thinking about it like if they increase the cap, but if you think about like the equilibrium price is the ideal price, right? And that price is it open market? Is what?
Yeah, open.
So that would mean that that's the price where people would still want to use the taxis, but they would still be making a profit. That was,
One thing we want to think about, what is the consumer we're dealing with here? The people in downtown area, what kind of people we're dealing there?
Middle class, wealthier people.
Yes, do they have elastic or inelastic demand? I would say more than likely they're gonna have inelastic demand. They probably wouldn't worry about this $3-4 increase.
Yeah.
They want convenience, they want to save time. So yes, you're gonna see, probably less people, but I would say the decrease of the number of people would not be very much, and because I would think people there have inelastic demand, okay? But there's some other things going on here. That's if we let the market to operate a little bit, we know the price is gonna go up, right? Let's say go up to $10. So how this going to impact this taxi driving business? Is going to make them more competitive or less competitive? You know what I'm talking about?
yeah.
What I want to tell you here is, now you're just looking at taxi market, but really to understand this issue, you have to expand. You have to look at the other market that's kind of serve as a substitute to the taxi driving, because you can take the subway, you can take the bus, and there's some other kind of transportations, right? I don't know whether you guys heard of this. Actually, I heard from my student Uber.
Oh yeah.
Uber, have you guys heard of it?
Yeah.
Uber, maybe someday can you follow the website? Uber, can anybody explain what is Uber is?
I've never understood I understand the concept isn't it like you basically use the app?
Is it UBER?
Yeah.
Uber is where people offer services, and it's just everyday people like you and me who have cars, and they put it on the app or website and offer to drive people around. It's kind of like a taxi service, but it's not.
Well, you can't.
That's what I'm
You
saying.
can't
Is
just
that
be.
safe?
You can't. Well, you can be just anyone, but you have to have a nice model car and a certain type of. You can't just. like say I had like a 2004 Toyota Corolla, they wouldn't let me do that. You have to have like a newer car. Yeah, because my brother did an experiment on how he could make more money being an Uber driver than doing his actual job, and he figured out that you have to have a nice car and stuff like that.
Do they do like checks or something on these people? Cause
I think it's credit card. You pay. I think did you pay beforehand or?
no, I mean
You
like
pay through your
checks,
phone.
like-
No, checks on people who are
Like
shopping.
background checks? I'm not sure.
I don't think
I don't
it's.
see how that's insane
I-
because I would just get in with somebody.
I think but then again, it's a different like area. Like in the city, that's a pretty cool thing to just be like, oh, let me just hit Uber and see who's available
Yeah.
to drop me off. So like, it's not the safest. Like, anyone could have a nice car and
Yeah.
but not be the safest person to be driving you anywhere. But
I think they do background checks because my brother lives in Westport, and that's kind of like a really big city, and it's really close to Kansas City, and so he uses Uber a lot, and I mean, he's still here. So,
I feel like they would probably have to do the same thing as like taxis, because you could say that a taxi driver is like as
You have to be certified to be new. Like, I think you have to take a test or something.
Yeah, I think it's safer than we would think.
yeah, like you have to have proof that you have like a driver's license and stuff like that.
So you know when this taxi fare goes up, okay, and what do you think the consumer tend to do?
go somewhere else.
They may start using other kind of services, right? Okay, so knowing that may happen, now think about coming back to the taxi driving market. Why the price is set this way?
Wouldn't that be like last week we talked about like one of the things is that companies have to make sure that like their substitute isn't as good as them. So maybe like the taxi industry understands that the alternatives are just as good as the taxi service. So they can't increase the prices because then people would just use the other services.
And also, New York City is like the council technically is like in charge of the whole. So they would rather people pay a little more or a little less, and it'll build up rather than people completely just say, no, we're not going to go here anymore. We're going to go take another form of transportation. Or like they were talking about the jitneys, the private, that they don't really allow because that would take away from their what they have. So it would increase competition, of course, and it would also be more beneficial for the consumer, or the customers. They could pick whatever they want, but for the city of New York, they wouldn't be making as much money. So you have to balance between, we can't expect people to pay too much or they'll leave, but we also have to get some money. It's kind of build up kind of thing.
So, for the hairdressers and like jobs you need license for, this will not be the curve for them because they don't put a set price on their services. This is the curve for like taxi drivers because they put a set price. But say it's for like, in the book they were talking about how you need license to be like a hairdresser. They don't put a set price on whatever they do. So they will have the second, the middle one, because they don't have the set price. This will be when they have the set price for the taxis.
That's right.
Okay. The Uber people.
Does Uber have a set price?
I think, in addition to economic reason, there's some political reason related to this.
You do have to pass a
prices.
background check.
Okay.
Sorry.
And a
That's
driving
okay.
record check.
Yeah. Sorry.
So what I was saying is, I think there's some particular reason to, in addition to economic reason, why this price is set that low. I think, the city council, the city government want to protect, whoever owns this taxi, business market. Because if they let the market just operate just a little bit, the competition will come in, and the market share of this taxi business is going to be much smaller. So I think that's the reason, and they really want to protect this group of people's profit. Of course, they can, justify by saying, okay, we want the price low so the consumer can enjoy it, but I don't believe, any minute that's the really ultimate goal here. Ultimate goal is, I think they have their group of people they want to protect.
Okay. So, as I was saying before, like, they gave the example in the book, the hairdressers, like the competition for hairdressers, where it is kind of like competition, like, I guess for some people, getting your hair braided gives competition for like, for regular salons, I guess, where they do like, what is it called? Like perms or like
Straighten, yeah.
yeah, straighteners or something like that. So they have that competition, but it's also regulated in the sense that not everybody can go be a hairdresser. Like you have to go through school. You have to do like, you have to have license for that and this, that, and the third. And not only just for hairdressers, it's said for like lawyers also. They have this. They have the regulations. So, like, what do you guys think about that?
I thought the hair braiding one was really bizarre because in Utah they don't even teach hair braiding. Like, so are they just trying to get rid of hair braiding altogether? Like, it's not legal to do it and they don't teach it. What's so bad about it?
I have no clue. That was weird to me. I was like, what?
Well, and I agreed when the book was talking about how, if like someone messes up my hair, like I don't have a lot of hair, but if someone messed up my hair, like I wouldn't go back.
Right.
Like, and that's just common sense. So
Right.
you would think that the government would not get involved in something so simple as that to let the people work it out.
But I agree with like the lawyer thing though, because like they regulate it by making like law school really hard to get into. So that means like you're gonna get the best of the best lawyers, and I think that's really helpful for just like for the competition between the lawyers, and like it'll make them work harder to want to be a lawyer, and it'll get people who actually really care about their job.
Back to the whole hair braiding thing, though, if you think about it, it says they have to pay a certain amount to go to school, get their license to, for cosmetology, that kind of thing. So that's why the government wants to regulate it, because they get something out of it. They get people's money in order to do that. And they can shut people down because they don't have.
Yeah, I'm going to follow what you just said. Remember, talk about social welfare. Actually, 3 parts, right? Consumer surplus, producer surplus, and also government gain here. So in this case, government is a player in this market. So they gain from issuing the license. Okay, so they gain quite a bit. But overall, the social welfare will be lost because they control the supply.
Right, because it said for 1,600 hours training, they have to spend $6,000.
That's right.
So that's $6,000 that the government makes off one person. So, and then they also said that there was, there's about 10,000 of these salons across America. So if you think about 6,000 times 10,000, that's a crazy amount of money that the government is like, well, if we regulate this, we can get some of this, So that's.
So it's almost looks like what? Tax.
Yeah.
It is actually serves the exactly same purpose as tax serves.
So, so basically, like I was saying before, and it's like the government regulates all these different professions, but I don't know examples of any other places where they regulate the supply and the price other than the taxing. I don't know, but they have the middle graph where it would because they're regulating like the supply of the good or service, like the hair dressers or the law or whatever, it would increase the price for that good or service for the consumer. So, so how do you think that would affect the consumers, like for a lawyer, because it's so competitive, and they decrease like the number of law schools in a certain state or something like this? How do you think that would affect like a consumer, someone who needs a lawyer?
They can charge more because there's fewer. Their time is worth more.
If it was like a really important case and then might not be able to get a lawyer because all the lawyers might be busy.
Right. You want to? No. Okay. So I guess we can go to the discussion question. Number one, it says, consider 2 different ways of beating your competition. One way is to offer your consumer lower prices and better service. The other is to get a law passed to raise your competitors' costs. For example, by imposing special operating requirements on them. Can you see any difference between the 2 methods, assuming that both succeed in keeping your competition out?
Well, in the first one, if they're gonna have to lower their prices, that means they're gonna take, like, as a company, they're gonna have to take a pay cut to lower their prices so everyone uses them. While in the other one, if they pass a law, they don't have to necessarily lower their prices because they're the only people that people are gonna have to go to.
Right.
And they could even bump up their price to make more profit if no one else is in the competition.
The first one is definitely like a simpler way to go. I mean, it's not, yeah, you have to lower your price, and so for the immediate situation, you're gonna have to take a pay cut for at least a little bit until, you know, like business picks up.
Right.
But the second one, it's better for you because you don't have to change anything, but it definitely seems like a more difficult way to go.
Right.
I think this really fits the hair salon because what they're trying to do is they're trying to say you need to be licensed, you need to go through the however many hours, 1,600 hours of schooling to be able to braid hair, and that's obviously upping the cost as hairdressers have to pay for that schooling. So that's what the straighteners, beauty stuff they're trying to do.
So that will fit into the second, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Second method. But what about the first method? What's gonna follow from the first method?
More competition.
Eventually, what's gonna happen? So basically, you're talking about the firms getting in a price war, actually. They undercut each other's price. So eventually, what's gonna happen? If they keep doing that,
If they keep lowering their prices, then
and price is going to go down to a level where exactly equal to the marginal cost of producing the goods.
Right.
And that actually is same as the perfect competitive market. So when they undercut each other's price, even if it's in an oligopolistic market, you know, which we're probably thinking about this here, and they eventually the price will go down to a level which is exactly like in the perfect competitive market. Consumer is going to extract all the surplus in this market, even you don't have a lot of competition here. However, because of this price war, and you're going to end up with outcome just like perfect competitive market.
Don't gas stations kind of do that, like a little bit?
Well, in gas stations, they're not an oligopoly market because you have many gas providers, gas station providers. But you know, I'm talking about oligopoly market like you only have few providers, like an ebook reader. You have Nook and you have Kindles, right? And they actually they were undercutting each other's price on the ebook and made it really low, actually very close to their margin cost of producing good. So the low price, the extreme low price can happen. Even you don't have the competition. But the condition is they have to get into the price war. They want to undercut each other. And the reason they want to do that, they want to push the competition out. They want to, really make the other firm bankrupt. So to do that, that may happen.
So that's what's gonna happen for the first method, you know. The second method is totally different. Second method is basically, you know, and whoever set the law is want to, you know, you want to shift the supply. So you still have the supply and demand that govern the equilibrium price and quantity. Yeah, so it's kind of different, totally different method of doing it, yeah.
Anybody else? Okay, then go on to number 2. Although governments at all levels sometimes act to prevent some individuals from competing with others, the federal government is probably the most active in this role. State governments are less active and local governments are the least active. Can you explain this pattern?
Well, the federal government, that seems to me like they would need to be the most involved because, so there'll be some sort of standardization.
Right.
And the states, there won't be much that they can fine tune after the state lays down the law. I mean, the federal government lays down the law, so that's understandable why they would be less involved. And then the local government, what in the world can they do? I mean, after you've already got the state and then the federal government throwing down their laws, by the time that they're all them laws down, just about everything that needs to be taken care of is taken care of. Right. So the poor local governments, they might be able to throw in their 2 cents here or there, but there ain't much they can do other than that.
Well, and unfortunately, like, the federal government doesn't know, like, all these small businesses. They don't know which businesses run the city of Pembroke, you know. They don't know that the Walmart in Pembroke is probably the most populated place like in Pembroke. You know, they don't know all this little stuff. And so, by the federal government not knowing this stuff, them setting a standardized, I guess, price or like saying how many can limit how many competitors are in the market, that takes away, you know, I guess, for instance, you know, we have a Food Line, we have a Family Dollar, we have a, you know, whatever, dollar store. But the point is like they limit these on the federal, like they don't understand how the community works. So that's where I think that the local government should have a little more say in that type of stuff.
Right. So
Does it have to do with the size of the market as well? Because, so in New York City, the local, I guess it would be considered local, I mean, it's still a big government, but it's local government would be governing the taxi. But in Pembroke, there's not a big enough market for anything in Pembroke for the local government to have to, you know, that's an extreme example, but.
yeah, I would say that like it varies based on like where you are, you know. So I feel like the the federal government lays out, you know, like the general rules, I guess, and then the state and local governments have like, I guess, to me it would seem like they have like their little battle, I guess, but it's on like who has more say so, because like say like you have Pembroke and Lumberton, it's like 2 completely different fields to a certain extent, kind of. So like the local government maybe would have more say in Pembroke than it would in somewhere else. You know what I mean? So yeah. So we can go to number 3. Is there any difference between prohibiting entry by a group of firms and levying a special tax on those firms?
I think like by prohibiting like entry to certain firms, so like if you take the example of like the medallions, like setting by limiting how many can be in there, that puts the medallions at a certain price, and because of that price, like some people can't enter the market. So there's that. So that would prohibit certain people from entering the market. And then I don't get the second part of it though. I mean, a special tax on.
Well, it's basically saying that just like, you could have two things. One, you could just have someone saying, no, you can't do this, or sure, you can do this if you pay this much money.
True.
So that's like levying kind of to, so it's basically the same thing in a way. You know, one, because usually they're gonna make that tax high enough so that the business is giving a lot, like the tax will goes directly to the government, so that the government or the governing body at that time, they're gonna get that money. You know, that's how they're gonna make their money. So you're kind of fighting fire with fire here, because you may say, okay, like you can't prohibit entry, but you're doing about the same thing. You just make, I mean, and sure, some governments may decrease that tax, but like if you're taxing these firms, like they don't want to be, depending on how much of a tax that would be, they wouldn't want to be in that place.
Well, Dr. Scher said earlier that it was the same thing, because she gave an example that because the prices are so high and they're making such profit that it is basically a tax. At least that's the way I understood it when you said it.
Okay, let me give you guys an example. I'm gonna sell this keychain to you guys. Okay? Each one of you has a valuation on this keychain, which is how much you're willing to pay for this. All right, so first method, okay. The first one, people, you're not allowed to enter into this buying, this auction, buying of this keychain. Okay, the first method. The second method said, okay, you can buy this, but you have to pay $5 of this tax to the school. So first method, exclude those people out. But if we use the second method, there are some people will be out, but are they going to be the same people? So use this example, think about it.
Yeah, I think there is a difference, because there you can, like, if you really want that, really want to be in that whatever group, then you're willing to pay more. And there's also other ways of making up for that price instead of saying no, you're not allowed to. There is a possibility of still being able to enter.
So let's say Blaine thinks this worth $15. He's willing to pay $5 tax for this. But by the first method, he has no chance.
That's a good point.
Okay, so these two methods is very, very different. Because the first method totally ignored individual valuation of the product. And individual cost, in this case, individual cost of making the product. By using the second method, you ask the individual to participate voluntarily. So how do they going to determine whether they're going to participate? They're going to take a look at their cost function. So this way is more efficient. The second method is more efficient because that price serve as a signal right now to attract the people who really can afford to do this and to be in this market.
I was thinking about this earlier. I think it relates when Sierra was talking about lawyers in law school. And so right now they say, okay, you're not allowed into law school because we have too many people. They can say that because.
So right now that's what's going on here.
I think there's a cap on how many law schools anyway. It said it, I think, especially in California.
Like how many is
So
There's a cap on how many kids can get into.
yeah,
You can get into, but they did not say you cannot go to a law school. They did not say that, right?
No, they didn't
but
say
they
that.
did say that there's only so many that can go in.
That's right. That's right.
Instead of, and it's not exact, but instead of saying you have to like have this high a score on on your test to get in, and so the amount cap will keep some people who have high test scores, will keep them out. While the test score cap will have to keep them in. Is that relate?
And it's what you're saying actually is still related to the second method. So basically, you use a test score as a screening device. Okay, but the first method they're talking about, there's no screening device there. They just said you cannot enter. You see, the screening device is very useful. You can screen by using the cost, screen by using the talent, screen by using the effort. You can screen. That's what market does. They use a screening device. But when you do not use any screening device, you just said, Sarah, you're not allowed to enter into high school, law school, and that is extremely inefficient. Yeah. So that's the difference because there's no screening device involved in the first method.
We can move on to number 5. Although New York City's mass transit system is the largest in the country, it is not the only one that is heavily subsidized by taxpayers. In fact, as far as we know, all mass transit systems are heavily subsidized by taxpayers. Suggest at least one economic and one political reason why these systems are heavily subsidized.
I think we talked a little bit about this already, right?
So one reason why economically they. So what do you mean by? I don't know. I'm slightly confused by it.
You're confused. Okay. I think it's saying give like one economic and one political reason as to why the taxi transit system is like
Paid for by taxpayers.
basically
Subsidized.
Yeah.
What do we mean by that? I want to ask both of you in this context.
Isn't that
heavily like maybe not like necessarily like paid for, I guess. Heavily like supported by taxpayers.
Yeah, but
That's what I get. Okay. What are you?
Well, I'm not actually smart. I just looked this up. It said to pay part of the cost of producing to reduce prices for the buyer. So I guess my own words. So you're paying a little bit, so that the buyers they don't have to pay as much.
Actually, the question was not complicated. Okay, the question is, the reason is the cost is much higher than the gain in this taxi driver markets. So the government has to subsidize it. So the market itself cannot sustain itself. So that's why we have to use the taxpayers' money to support this low price. This price is too low.
So that's why it's subsidized, but basically, like, okay. All right.
So it's subsidized so that the price can be low, and that's the economic reason. That's what
It's not the economic reason. That's not the economic.
That's not the economic
That's
reason.
not the economic.
It's-
Well, I'm just saying, I was just explaining, what's the meaning of your subsidizing.
Well, a political reason would be that if it wasn't, it would make everyone who used it very angry, and politics is about pleasing the public. I mean, if they had to raise the price, everyone would be upset. So if there was a politician who wasn't for that, no one would vote for them.
So what would be the possible economic reason? Pushes competition out, prevent competition, kind of different, transportation competition coming in. That's the sole purpose of it. That's the sole purpose of this doing competition.
I was confused about the jitney versus public transit, because they said the fare for public transit, government transit, was higher, but they were losing money. But then the jitneys, it said they could charge $1 per passenger, and they were, I think it said they were like making money with a lower fare.
So what is Jenny? I really don't know what is that.
It said privately owned. I'd never heard of it before. Privately owned van. So it's sort of like Uber, would it? But they run on a certain route?
Well, it's like in Brunswick County, we have Brunswick Transit, and they go certain places, but they also go like out of a normal, like you know how a bus route does the same thing? Well, Brunswick Transit will like go and get you from your house. Like it doesn't do it on a route, so it may be kind of like that.
Yeah, that's what it sounded like.
Well, it was basically, from what I got, was it was like, you know, you had your public transportation, then you had a private transportation. So really what I think it was trying to get across was that the jitney's taking away the public transportations, what they're supposed to be bringing in. So they were kind of doing what you were with your contain, like instead of, you know, like allowing some of them, they were cutting all the private transportation off, saying that it wasn't going to help the economy of the New York. So basically they were saying, if you don't work for us and you're not part of the public transportation, then you can't transport people, which would increase how much money they make. And I guess the jitneys, they were charging less. So if they're charging less, people are gonna pay for them, and that takes away. So I think that's really what I was just trying to.
Was it were they making more just because of the competition? Because it said they were profitable. in the
I think
public
a reason that the jitneys would make more money is because they don't have, like, they drive around, but they get to, like, keep their money. You know what I mean? They don't have to give a certain percentage or a certain amount back to.
So they have a lower cost.
Right.
They don't have big overhead.
And because, like, in New York City, they cited that it was dangerous and that they are seeking to prevent vans from causing accidents and traffic problems. So they used the excuse of, you know, we want to keep our streets cleaner, but we're gonna have like 2,000 taxis on the road anyways. But like that was their way of saying, like, we don't want the private transportation system to mess with our public transportation system.
Anybody else? No. Okay. So, basically, based on like what we said, like how would like the regulations or whatever affect the market share?
They increase, there's less competitors, so each competitor has more market share. Is that what you mean?
So,
That's right.
right, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay, I was hoping we could discuss that, but I guess not. So I guess we can go on to number 6. Labor unions are a device for limiting competition, in this instance, competition among workers. The union bargains on behalf of all members, presumably resulting in a higher wage for workers and higher costs for employers. Using this fact combined with the fact that international trade has played an increasing role in the American economy over the last 50 years, to explain the observation that union membership has declined as a share of private sector employment over this period in the United States. Your explanation should be consistent with the fact that union membership has not declined as a share of public sector employment over this period.
So I can sort of see how it would decline, because the labor unions are increasing the wages, but then so there's less. It's sort of like we were talking about before with higher minimum wage. Sort of, if that makes sense. And so people would want to like undercut that so they can get a job, just so they can get a job. They want to like all work for less money, you know, and not be part of a union. But I don't know how that relates to private sector versus public sector.
I worked in Michigan for 1 year. And in Michigan is, anybody here from Michigan?
My family is.
It's economically depressed.
Mhm.
Why? What is one of the possible reasons for that?
Michigan has a lot of industries, doesn't it? Like the major.
auto industry.
Yeah, like Ford and Detroit. Right?
Yeah.
Does that have something to do with
Union.
that?
That's a union state. And the workers benefit. It's awesome. I worked there in the Central Michigan University for 1 year. My health insurance was so great that I did not have to pay anything. If I go to visit the clinic, go to get a massage, chiropractic, I did not have to pay anything. Drug, just $2. Copay, just $2. X-ray, free. MRI, I got this MRI test done, free. I did not have to pay anything. Okay. And when I came here, I got state employee insurance, I have to pay 20% of all the procedures. This is the right to work state. Okay. Well, how would you think the private company, feel about if they have to provide all those, great benefit that you negotiated by the union? They don't like it. They raise their cost, right? So they're more likely to move their business to a right to work state.
So, what do you think are the marginal costs for, I guess, government regulation of an industry? Like, what would be like the marginal benefit, marginal cost for that? Are there any?
Marginal benefit, marginal cost of what?
Of like having government, like versus having an industry where there's like no regulation, you do whatever, and having an industry with government regulation. Like, are there any like?
But I said we're talking about union here, right?
Right, but I thought we were done with that question. Nobody else was raising their hand with that.
Well, I think people are thinking here.
Okay.
Okay, but another thing I observed while I was in Michigan here is people tell me it's very hard to be fired because of the union. It's very, very difficult to be fired. That could be a very good thing for the workers. But what is the consequence of that?
Inefficiency can go down.
Low productivity.
Right.
That's also contribute to the reason of economic, depression there. So there's a lot of consequence of that. Okay, but as a private company, you can change. You can move from the area to a different area where you don't have to pay such a great benefit to the workers, right? But what about they talk about the public sector employment? How would that be different? Or how would that be different if we're talking about public sector employment?
So public sector, they couldn't just move.
Yeah.
That's
They're
right.
stuck.
That's right.
So the membership in private sector has decreased because of companies moving out of union states.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
But then the membership in the public sector companies wouldn't it be hard, like their numbers would be less likely to change because it's harder to fire people and then they can't move to change it.
Because it's a public sector, and so they are not for profit, so they're less concerned about the low productivity,
True.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's why membership in the public sector did not decline.
Well, that's like my mom works at a prison in Connecticut, and she's like, every time she has a problem, she's like, well, they can't fire me, like, because she's a very vocal person, but she's very vocal because she goes, well, they can't fire me, like, I'm protected by my union and stuff like that, and anytime she has a problem, everyone gets together and they talk to the union. So, but then she also said that, like, it's very difficult to get change with a union because like you all have to work together.
That's right.
So
Union has a lot of control
yeah,
over what you can do, what you can't do. Yeah.
so I mean that could also contribute to it. But I mean definitely they're less efficient than private.
But I'm telling you, as a worker, it's not a bad idea to work in a union state. Work for, you know, university that has a union protected.
Yeah.
You know, it definitely, it's not bad choice at all, you know. Actually, I really miss the health insurance stuff there. I mean, this, you know, in North Carolina, you never get that kind of great health insurance. But, you know, it's a trade-off. It's a trade-off,
true.
you know. Yeah, you're not seeing the booming business in Michigan like you see it here in Raleigh and Charlotte. Yeah, so there's a trade-off.
Would there be any, like, how would the public sector change? Are unions just gonna be there forever? Like, it's obviously changed in the
You
private
get rid of
sector. Is there any chance of that
The public
changing?
sector will change.
Yeah.
That part I don't know.
Because I don't think you like I don't know how you can get rid of a union. Like I don't
Yeah, I
think
don't
you
know.
can.
They've had so much trouble with, like, even with teachers' unions in Canada, and I know unions can be a really good thing, like you said, but the teachers are always striking, and it's bad for schools. Like, the high schools, they go to the end of June, and the beginning of May, they went on strike, and so they missed the last 2 months of school. Lots of kids didn't get to graduate because they were senior year and their teachers were on strike.
I think
That would make me
say
no.
the government has to
Okay.
be willing to really want to clean it up.
Right.
You know, if you know this is gonna happen. Yeah.
In American history, every time we've had like big labor unions, a lot of the times the government will just send in troops. And
Be like
And
you
now,
need to-
obviously, it's a little different. But like the government has always reacted. Is what I will say.
Actually, I thought this chapter is very interesting chapter. It has a lot of, you know, deep issues going on, you know. I think you guys did a good job discussing it, you know. And I want you guys to participate more next one, okay? Sometime, you know, we may have good leading or okay leading, but it's your responsibility to raise question and keep this discussion alive. You know, basically this is, you know, you feel the difference, even it's live, you know, it inspires you know, and make you learn more. So we want that kind of environment, you know, we want that kind of discussion. You learn more. Actually, you feel happier, you know, leaving this class, okay? So be part. There's a lot of reading for Thursday, so read it all, okay? There's a lot of reading.